Howdy, howdy. What is going on? I'm Josh Reisick, and I'm here with Bryant Koleski, and welcome to episode 13 of the Back of the End Zone podcast. We've got some exciting content coming today as we've continued to go to different teams every single week, different college football teams. And this week, Bryant,
Doing the Clemson Tigers, taking a trip to the ACC. For the last several years, Clemson has ran the ACC. Except for that one year even that one year Notre Dame was in it. That was a COVID year, but they except for 2021 when Pitt won the ACC. But I mean, the ACC has really been dominated by one team the last several years, and it's been Clemson. Florida State has fallen off. Clemson the last 2 years have gone like 10-2, 9-3, not really lived up to what everybody expects, especially the post Trevor Lawrence era. They seem to have found their
haven't
guy.
lived up to the Clemson standard.
Yeah, they had some problems with DJ Uyunglele, however you say his name, but he's now transferred to Oregon State, and the start of the Cade Klubnik era
has begun.
has begun,
And there's lots of excitement with Cade Klubnik that we'll dive a little bit into in segment one. And I mean, it's just Clemson's so interesting because we talked about this before the show that Dabo's a phenomenal coach, but a lot of people try to crap on him. And I feel like the last 2 years since he hasn't lived up to the Clemson standard, people are just all upset. But Dabo is still a phenomenal coach, and Clemson's still a phenomenal team.
And I have a lot of respect for Dabo, not only because of some of like his faith-based ideas, but just for how he, and people say he complains a lot, but I feel like some of his points that he makes about the game in general and about college football, I think some of them are valid. I hold Dabo in high regards as a coach. A lot of Bama fans don't want him as a coach if Saban were to retire, but I mean, I would not mind Dabo coming back to Bama where he played. But then later in the show, we're also going to talk about the SEC. We talked, in one of our first couple of episodes, we talked about, how things are starting to change, 12-team playoff coming, conferences expanding. It was actually just reported this week that there could be some teams going to the Big 12, including a team we covered earlier, Colorado. And the fact that these conferences are starting to go to no divisions and just have the two best teams, whether they played here earlier in the season, play in the conference championship. And so the SEC has now done in 2024 will do away with divisions, but they're staying at an 8-game conference schedule, which got a lot of non-SEC fans riled up. And and the NCAA game.
I am riled up about that because I'm like, why? The players should just. We'll get into it, but that literally like stirs the pot with me because I'm like, just shut up, take whatever you're gonna get. The NCAA
want the game back.
Exactly. And I mean,
it's been over a decade. It's almost a decade since we've had a college football game. We just want it back, even if that means putting rosters. We don't care. We just want it back.
Literally. But let's dive right into segment one, baby, and talk about some Clemson football.
Let's go.
Segment one is brought to you all by 251 Pool Works, and they are family owned and operated. And 251 Pool Works offers pool cleaning, maintenance, and repair. And they serve the greater Baldwin County, Mobile, and Pensacola areas. And if you're needing any kinds of monthly pool cleaning, service, and or repair, call 251 Pool Works at 251-978-7736 for the Pool Works.
And they do great work. I've seen pictures of their work. They do pretty good work. So
I've seen it. No, it's not pretty good. It's really good. And I mean, if you have a pool, hit them up immediately because they do some good stuff.
Exactly. So Clemson Tigers, man, Clemson Tigers.
The one thing that my thoughts are, as an Ohio State fan, I know I always talk about Ohio State, but as an Ohio State fan, I've always grown to hate Clemson because they beat us in the college football playoff. And then the following year, we came back and beat them back in 2019 and 2020. But the thing is, in recent years, people have, like the past 2 years, because of the fact that Clemson hasn't made the college football playoff, people, I feel like, have seemed to give Dabo disrespect. And to me, I don't think he deserves that disrespect because we talked about James Franklin last week and how he's kind of being iffy and not winning the big games and how he could be on the way out. I don't think Dabo is anywhere near on the way out.
And Dabo has been winning those big games. He beat Bama in 2 national championship games. One where they had to win it on the last play on that pick play to Hunter Renfro, and then one where they kicked Alabama's ass 44-16 with Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor and Clemson for the greater half or the since that 2015 season where when they first
6 straight years.
When they first played Bama in the first title game, you had 4 straight matchups between Alabama and Clemson in the postseason. Well, that first game, since that first national title game they played in, people thought as Clemson as like a SEC style team because they ran the football great, they had great wide receivers on the outside, they had a star quarterback in Deshaun Watson,
And Trevor
Lawrence, and they played great, phenomenal defense. I mean, they had
their
guys.
defense. I think their defense was even greater than their offense was. Like
Yes.
when you look at the tapes and you watch, like just like as a fan watching those playoff games, like literally their defense was a force to be reckoned with every single time. And they made Alabama's offense look awful. Like shutting, like I mean, they really didn't, but I mean, like they like literally, like you said, like they looked like an SEC team. And for those 6 years of getting the playoff every single year, everyone was like, wow, this team really is like something.
And like they were known, those teams were known for their, great defensive fronts. They had guys like Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, Shaq Lawson, just straight dudes up front, and they had
physical too. Like
they had the formula that SEC teams have had for the last several years, to where and they had guys outside like T. Higgins, they had Mike Williams, Travis Etienne, they had Gallman, they had,
and they were known as wide receiver U for a little bit too. Part of that through 2015 through 2020, I wouldn't say that they were wide receivers, but they've always been known to be up there with some of the best wide receivers in all of college football, and that's a fact. Like between Bama, LSU, Clemson, and Ohio State, like those are schools that are always known to develop top wide receivers. And that leads me right into what I kind of want to talk about with helping Dabo out is Cade Klubnik. And Cade Klubnik he's honestly one of those kids, one of those athletes that could really bring this Clemson team back to where they were 2.5 seasons ago, when they were in the college football playoff, when they were going undefeated in the ACC. I mean, they did that this year, but they're going undefeated in the ACC. And Cade Klubnik, not only is it Cade Klubnik that's going to help Dabo out, it's Garrett Riley coming from TCU, because Garrett Riley ran that air raid offense and turned Max Duggan into a college football superstar.
Yeah, Max Duggan. People don't understand about Max Duggan is before the season last year he was the backup, and you see what he was able to accomplish.
What he did. Like I know you watched that Big 12 championship game and like the college football playoff. He's a dog. Like you watch that dude, I'm like, holy crap! Like he's running through people.
And Cade Klubnik's a dog. I mean, I remember watching him in flashes last year. Now he looked kind of, he looked like a freshman when they played Tennessee in the bowl game. But I mean, Tennessee was great that year anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. And I think
the ACC championship game though, he played well against North Carolina, and his first start, he really showed.
And they won. I mean, they won. So now their schedule is a little bit tough. But the thing about their schedule though, you look at their schedule. Their schedule starts off kind of easy. They go to Duke, they play Charleston Southern and Florida Atlantic, but then they host Florida State September 23rd. A lot of their big games they host Florida State, they host Notre Dame, and they host North Carolina, which are really the teams to watch out for on their schedule. Now they play at Miami, they play at NC State, and they host Wake Forest. Now, and they go to South Carolina. That one,
South Carolina is probably going to be their toughest game, because South Carolina is on the rise in the Ace. Like, I mean, they're just.
As of right now, I still think their toughest game is Florida State. I picked Florida State to win the ACC, and I'm sticking by that. I think Florida State beats them at home, or beats Clemson in Clemson. But I think Clemson. I think that's their only loss, man. I think if they somehow end up playing in the
ACC championship.
game. I don't know. I think they still do divisions. I think
I
so.
think they do too. But
But
I mean,
I think that's their only loss. But a lot of their big games though, the host now Syracuse. Now they go to Syracuse. Syracuse has been a thorn in their side for the last few years, just because I think they always overlook Syracuse. But
yeah, I mean, this last year they almost. I mean, did they lose to Syracuse this past year? I can't remember, but I know it was
or it was very
it
close.
was a really close game. Yeah, sorry that I don't know that for a fact, but like, yeah, but that's the thing though. That's where I think that Cade Klubnik and Garrett Riley operating this offense, like looking at TCU, yeah, they got blown out by Georgia last year. But you looked at what he was able to do with that TCU team and the receivers and the weapons that he had. Like you look at Clemson's offense, they're losing one offensive lineman. So they have the pass blocking. They have one hole they need to fill there. They have two of their starting running backs coming back with Will Shipley, who had a crazy year last year in ACC play.
Yeah, Will Shipley's the dog.
Yeah, he is a dog, and they have their backup running back too, Maffa.
Christian McCaffrey, doppelganger. Will Shipley's
literally, he's Christian McCaffrey dupe. Literally, like it's going to be really interesting to see how Garrett Riley like just puts his hand on this offense because he had a great year. You look at what he was able to do with Max Duggan, and I personally think Max Duggan was overlooked in the NFL draft. I think that he should have been higher than quite a few quarterbacks. But I really think that Garrett Riley is like Cade Klubnik's already a phenomenal quarterback. And I think Garrett Riley is just going to make him even better.
And talking about, going to the defensive side of the ball, they lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball. They lost a lot of their D line. They lost Brian Brzee and Miles Murphy, which were dogs. But in recruiting, though, I think they found some guys to replace them because their top 5 recruits are all D linemen. You got Peter Woods, who was a 5-star, and he's from Thompson, Alabama. I mean, they stole him right out of Alabama and Auburn's backyard, 5-star. Then you got Tamarian Parker, who's a 4-star, Vic Burley. But then they got another quarterback from Alabama.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. But the good part about their defense though too is yes, they're bringing in all these top young recruits, but they have 2 pass rushers, Xavier Thomas and Justin Maskell, who are coming back for their 6th seasons. And then they have Tyler Davis, who forgoed the NFL draft and is coming back for his 5th season. And he was a defensive tackle. You think about that. That's 3 guys on the defensive line that are coming back for their 5th and 6th seasons. Like that's incredible for the youth at Clemson. Like that's something
better guys to really show the youth. I mean, and Peter Woods is a guy, I can't stand the fact that they got him away from Bama. But Peter Woods is a guy that can I think what they sold is they're losing some D linemen and Miles Murphy and Brian Brzee, and so they can bring Peter Woods in and use him right and like immediately. And Bama's always got great D linemen, so you never know who plays on the D line for Bama, but I mean they're always going to be great at defense. Their defensive coordinator Wes Goodwin is from my area. Hopefully we'll get him on before the season starts or even after the season. But no, I think Clemson has a real shot to be back in contention this year. I think it all depends on Cade Klubnik. I think it just depends on him.
Yeah, it depends on. I mean, and their defense is always reliable. Like I remember one thing that always scared me watching Clemson was their linebackers. They have some of the most hard-hitting linebackers, like I think in the country, and I think they're. I mean, I don't want to say they're the best. They have the best linebackers in the country, but I think they have some of the best inside linebackers in the country, and they have Barrett Carter and Jeremiah Trotter coming back, who could be a top linebacker duo in all of college football next year.
They had the Skalski guy
who got ejected.
That you probably dislike because he
had the cowboy collar, dude. That's what I'm saying though. They've always,
dude.
Dabo's always been known to have like just scary defenses, and that's something where we already know that the offense is going to be pretty above standard, pretty like with Garrett Riley and Cade Klubnik, which we keep talking about, but their defense is always good. So it's like, yeah, we keep talking about Florida State and the ACC, but we still can't overlook Clemson because you look at all their returners and all of these young guys that like Dabo's still able to recruit. I'm pretty sure right now they have like the 8th overall recruiting class. Correct me if I'm wrong, in class 2024.
Yeah, they got number 8.
And
I'm actually just landed. Like they've been hot recently on the recruiting trail. They have really landed some recruits. They've landed two in the past couple of days. They've landed Sammy Brown, who's one of the top. He's a top 15 recruit. He's a 5-star linebacker out of Georgia. Stole one right out of the Dogs' backyard. Then they got Bryant Westco, we're wide receiver. He committed
Yeah,
either
he's really good. And then they got the other receiver too.
DJ Moore. Yep, they got.
And they're both top 100 receivers in that class, which is huge. Because I mean, that's just more addition for that offense, that air raid offense. I mean, even though that's not going to be till the following year, but still, like, it's Clemson has always, I think, and I know
Dabo's there, they're gonna be
exactly.
Really.
They're always a contender for the college football playoff. They're always a contender to win the ACC. I think they're always going to be that way. But with Dabo there, they're always a contender for the college football playoff, even with not making it the past 2 years.
And what makes like people say sometimes Clemson gets the benefit of the doubt, like kind of like the SEC does. And I compare Clemson to the SEC because I do think of them as an SEC school, and I'm making a bold prediction here. But in a couple of years, if the Big 12 goes out and gets some teams, I think the SEC goes against Clemson. I think Clemson will be in the SEC within 2 or 3 years.
In a heartbeat. I guarantee it.
I really do. And Clemson, like I think like I was just saying, a lot of people say they get the benefit of the doubt, kind of like, but that's just because they've gone out and proven it. They've gone out and proven that they can go win a national championship. They can win those big games against Bama, against Georgia, against Ohio State, against LSU.
And that they can be there back to back years. Like they're unstoppable when they're hot. And I mean, it'll be crazy to see what they're capable of doing this year, especially without DJ Ugolo, however the hell you say.
I think they're better off without him. I mean, I
think so too.
I feel for the guy because I don't know if he ever got a fair shot, but I think he'll thrive at Oregon State.
Oh, 100%.
I think it was just the right choice for them to move on and start the Cade Klubnik era. I mean, I really like the kid. I really like him I liked him as a prospect, and I think he's going to do really well. I think
you look at what Dabo's done in his college football playoff trips with Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. It's like Cade Klubnik could be that guy.
100%. If Florida State doesn't win the ACC, it's Clemson 100%. In my like people say North Carolina because of Drake May, but I like Drake May. He's probably the second best quarterback in next year's class. I think he's a dog, and I think he's really good. But
I don't think North Carolina has what it takes to win the ACC.
I don't think North Carolina necessarily has the talent. I think they got the talent to win the ACC, but I don't know if they have the talent to go all the way and make the college football playoff.
Oh, I don't believe so, but that's just how I feel. But
yeah, the Clemson Tigers, they will be back in contention. And we talk about Dabo. I think his coaching future at Clemson could be in question, not because like I don't think he is getting tired of Clemson, but a lot of people put him in that conversation to be the next guy after Saban, because he played at Alabama, and a lot of coaches like to go back to where they played. Kirby Smart went back to Georgia. Mario Cristobal of Miami, Jim Harbaugh of Michigan. Just you see it all the time where these coaches.
Yeah, the likelihood of it happening is very high, especially after Saban leaves. And Saban would probably want Dabo there, to be honest. Like,
Saban will have a huge like hand in who the successor is.
Oh, 100%.
Kind of like Bob Stoops at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson football. I still
Riley made it to a national championship game before Lincoln Riley. That's what's to be excited about when it comes to Garrett Riley being the OC at Clemson.
Yeah, that is true. So, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening with Clemson, but I think they do have a big shot to win the ACC this year and a shot to get back in the college football playoff because Dabo's hungry. 2 years with
100%. Clemson will be a contender, I believe. It's them and Florida State in the ACC, and I think it's everybody else in the ACC.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's gonna do it for Clemson, though. Thank you to 251 Pool Works for sponsoring this segment. And let's get
the podcast as a whole.
And the podcast as a whole, but let's get into segment 2, baby.
right, so segment 2, let's get into it. Sponsored by Now Fitness. Now Fitness is a gym and fitness center based in Groveville, Alabama, the county I'm from. They do personal training, group sessions with CrossFit and other workouts, and they help local athletes train and get in their best shape. They're owned by Corey Creighton and Brianna Krim. Call 251-269-3065 for more, man. They do it amazing.
Oh yeah,
They
get
do
that
amazing
work.
work.
That work.
I've seen a lot of their videos. They do a lot of good things for the community and for helping athletes from a lot of the schools around this area. The athletes, a lot of Jackson High School athletes are training there. A lot of them, some of them have D1 offers already. So they do a lot of great work, and just like I said, call them for more. 251-269-3065. So
Oh yeah.
like I said, we're glad to have both these sponsors aboard. So let's get into it. So in segment 2, we're talking about this happened last week, so it's kind of old news, kind of not, but still it's something to talk about before the season gets here. The SEC, I talked about it, in the intro where we've seen a shift in college football where things are changing: NIL, transfer portal, 12-team playoff, conference realignment, and then you have conferences getting rid of divisions. The Big 12 did it a while ago. Pac-12 did it.
Every conference needs to do it.
Every conference. I think a lot of these conferences are looking into doing it. SEC normally has the SEC East, SEC West, and then the 2 top teams from those divisions play each other in the SEC championship game. Well, in 2024, that is no longer the case. The SEC will get rid of the divisions.
Thank God.
But with something that's questionable though is that they're staying at an 8-game conference schedule. I know a lot of outside teams, outside conferences, outside conference fans have been pushing for the SEC to play a 9-conference game schedule because all the other conferences play a 9-game conference schedule. But the SEC is sticking at 8, and they just couldn't get the votes the other day when they were voting for it. Only 5 teams or 5 schools publicly favored 9 games. That was Texas A&M, Florida, Georgia, LSU, and Missouri. And then, they said, Nick Saban was on board until he saw who his 3 permanent rivals were going to have to be: Auburn, LSU, and Tennessee. Which
is why he probably.
As a fan, and I get where other people are coming from. I get, the fact that the SEC only plays 8 while other conferences play 9. I get that. I get the argument there. I get why people.
It just means more. I'm kidding.
But then again, the SEC also has the most in terms in competition and athletes. Now, I'm being honest here. We already know it. But when you think of it from Nick Saban and Jake, who we had on one of our first episodes, he said it last week on his show. You got to stop thinking like a fan when it comes to this, because if I were Nick Saban or he were Nick Saban, I wouldn't want to play those 3, especially when LSU and Brian Kelly are on the come up, Tennessee and Josh Heupel are on the come up. Both of those teams just beat you last year, and then Auburn seems to be on the right trend with Hugh Freeze. We won't know until this season. I mean, those are some tough places to play at.
They're 3 solid matchups though, too. Yeah.
But then Auburn would be getting teams like Vanderbilt, but they would have to play Georgia and Bama, but they still would get an easy game with Vanderbilt. Well, this is not that. I don't know. I would like to see the 9-game conference schedule as well as a fan. I would like to see it, but then again, I see where a lot of these teams are coming from, because there are only 5 teams from the SEC out of would be 16 by next year in favor of. Not even the new teams, LSU or Oklahoma, were in favor of.
Texas and Oklahoma. But
so,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it. I mean, as a Big Ten fan, I hate on the SEC, and I mean, I don't hate on the SEC, but I do just a little bit. And I think that extra conference, not necessarily that it's needed, but just late in the season, I think it's just something where it's one less thing that other fans are going to complain about, where it's like, oh my gosh, why are you guys playing Austin, PA, or like whoever the hell it is? And Like I understand, but it's just like to me,
Yeah.
I wish that there was that extra conference game, but I understand why. And I mean, it's nice that though that they're giving those three permanent matchups because I think that that's something that for these conferences that don't have east or west sides, they don't have the line in the middle. I think that they need to do something like that too, where you're playing three teams every single year because that's something the Big Ten would have to do. For example, it's something the ACC would have to do. It's something that would be needed to kind of create that balance where the top schools are still playing their rivals in their top matchups, like
Yeah.
Bama. Bama's still going to be playing Auburn, LSU, and who was the other team? Tennessee. Or yeah, and it's like that. Those are still three solid matchups they'll be playing every single year. And then you throw in Georgia into the mix and a couple other teams. Like it's gonna be an interesting schedule for.
And another reason for this happening is Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, who's arguably the best commissioner in football. He wouldn't. I mean, he didn't seem very keen on this either, and it's not because he didn't want it. He probably wanted it, but a lot of this has to do with money issues as well because they want ESPN, who they already signed a TV rights deal with after this year. They'll go. Most of the SEC games will be on ESPN. Even the primetime ones where you're used to seeing them on CBS. Well, now they'll be on ESPN, and they want ESPN to give a little bit more extra money for that ninth game added. And so I can see where they're coming from on that because it is the SEC. It is one of the best leagues in sports and in college football, and you're going to be getting a lot of those prime matchups like Alabama, Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Auburn, LSU, A&M, Texas, Oklahoma, blah blah blah. I mean, it's the same thing. So I would like to see the nine game conference schedule come into effect. But one thing I do like is that the fact they're getting rid of divisions because now you can see the two best teams in the SEC, no matter what side of the conference that they're on, play in the conference championship.
It's one step closer to the future. That's what it is.
You could have and it's not going to happen. Probably not going to happen within the next couple of years because Auburn's still got a lot to figure out with Hugh Freeze being the head coach. But you can have an Alabama Auburn SEC championship game where they play each other week 12 of the season in the Iron Bowl, and then the next week they end up
playing each other again. Exactly. It's a rematch game, which would be fun. And I feel
like
you
could have a Georgia Florida SEC championship game. You could see teams, the top two teams,
play each other again, get that redemption, that possible redemption.
Last year it would have been Georgia and Tennessee again instead of Georgia and LSU.
And it's hard to beat a team twice. So it's like doing something like that. Like it's just I feel like it means even more for the fans. Like to the fans, because then I mean, and for the winning team, say Bama beats Auburn week 12, and then the following 2 weeks later in the SEC championship, you got to play them again. Like it is a little bit harder, and I feel like it would suck for Bama fans hearing Auburn if Auburn actually won. But it's like because then it's like you guys could say like Bama fans could say, "Oh, well, we beat you guys the first time," and it's kind of that kind of argument. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like it's more fun for the fan bases being able to actually get that redemption and then being able to shut it up just like that. If
not only that, you can get those traditional rivalries as an SEC championship game, like an Iron Bowl SEC,
a neutral site,
or a Georgia Florida, or an LSU Bama, or you can get those matchups as an SEC championship game, and that would be ultimately the deciding factor. That could be ultimately the deciding factor of whether or not one of those two teams get into the playoffs. Even though with this 12-team playoff, they probably both get in anyway. But but I mean, that's the thing though. I really like where this is headed. I do think they will eventually go to 9 games. I think it'll be 8 games for 2 more seasons this year in 2024, and then I do think in 2025 they'll eventually go to the 9-game conference schedule. But one thing about and this, I'll close with this about the scheduling. They did make it to where they have to require they do require scheduling a Power 5 opponent. So Bama already has one for 2024. They'll go to Wisconsin in Madison, which will be good. You gotta fly me up there for that one.
We'll both Camp Randall. That'll be fun. That'd be a fun game to go to. Camp Randall's a fun environment. So
and then you have other matchups next year. I think Georgia plays Clemson again. I don't really know what all the non-conference slate is for next season in 2024, but but they will be requiring that they do face at least one or two Power Five opponents. So
I
it's
mean,
gonna be fun.
it'll be fun. One thing that's also a little fun, but also a little frustrating, is
Oh,
the fact that the College Football Players Association just came out. The lead, I'm pretty sure it was the vice president for the College Football
this was
Players.
yesterday too.
Yeah, yesterday he came out and asked that all NCAA college football, like Power Five, well, FBS players would boycott the NCAA football game that's supposed to come out next year in 2024.
It's
He
supposed
has
to come out this year.
yeah, it was supposed to come out this year, got delayed. And we, as fans, we've been waiting on this for almost a decade.
As
Since
soon as
20,
they announced it back in like 2021 or 2020, we have been wanting,
yeah,
this to come back.
everyone's been on the edge of their seats. All over Twitter, people are making like mock trailers of like the intro to the game, and like it just makes you even more
Mock
excited.
cover athletes.
Yeah, exactly. But the crap part is everyone was excited because one reason why a lot of fans wanted NIL was so that they could bring this game back. And now there's the situation where the NCAA, the College Football Players Association vice president is telling players to boycott the game because they're not going to be getting enough money. It was stated that every single player, based off the pool of money that EA has put together for the new NCAA college football game, would equal out each player to get $500. And the thing is, to me, take the freaking $500.
I think that's a fair deal.
Exactly.
I really do.
It's like we both just talked. It's $500 to have your name in the game. If you don't take it, your name's not in the game, and you're just a Joe Smith. Like
I can tell you right now, a lot of these guys probably at South probably take that at a because
exactly.
I would love to see them in the game. I mean, now
It's
I get
$500 that you didn't have before. Like,
and that also makes it to where like it's a set price, and that way players like Caleb Williams or Drake May or Marvin Harrison can't ask for more because and so somebody tweeted this or put this on Twitter yet earlier about it and said, if $500 is really your only NIL opportunity, and that's really like your opportunity to get an NIL bag, then maybe you need to reassess your value as a player because and not to mention having your name and your image in the game should do wonders for you. It could do wonders for you where you're from, or where you live,
exactly.
or where you play.
Like,
It could have it to where you get more exposure just for being in the game, and you can
and having your name on there. Like, think about like all the time, like growing up playing my brother in Madden or in NCAA college football. Like, I would play him in a game and say, like, we do randoms, and I get a random team, and I start going off with this one player. Like, I start to like idolize that one player.
Yeah.
Like as a kid, like there was always like certain players that I do really good with in game, and I'd be like, whenever I'd watch NFL games on Sunday, I'd be like, I want to watch that player because I did so good with him in Madden. Yeah. And it's like in NCAA, it's going to be the same way for little kids. Like that could be the reason why a little kid buys a jersey for a South Alabama player because they just end up doing so good in the game. And it's like you know what I'm saying? It helps out that player even more too.
And
it's
it
like,
could do wonders for like, smaller programs like South Alabama, like the Sun Belt,
like the MAC conference, like
MAC conference, Group of Five, and even smaller Power Five schools. It could do wonders for their football program, knowing that like they're like their images are in this very popular sports game every year. I think it's fine, but then again, it's like I can see where some of the players are coming from. I could see if a Caleb Williams or if a Marvin Harrison Jr. type of player were to come out and say, "Hey, I think I demand more." I see where that could be, valid, but I mean, that's not your only. But if you're that type of caliber player, just take
because you already have the NIL. You look at
exactly Caleb. You don't. I mean, people don't understand.
You look at Caleb Williams' NIL valuation from On3. He's already making over $1 million. Same with Marvin Harrison Jr. All these guys are literally making millions off of NIL. And you're going to complain about take the $500. That's all I got to say. Take the $500. Shut up, regardless of who you are, where you are in the spectrum. If you're from a G5 school and you're all the way at the bottom and you're a third string offensive lineman, you're taking the $500. And if you're at the top, if you're Caleb Williams, Drake May, If like any of those guys,
$500.
yeah,
To
take the
to be in the
$500.
game. I mean, you literally get to see not only your name, but you get to see and we'll likely get a face scan too.
Exactly.
And you get
Like,
your image and your style in the game. But
and
this is my thing to all college football players. Just take it. We want this game back. You want the game back too as a player. Just we want the game, man.
exactly. And you hear us talking to this right now. This is one of the most and it's the most anticipated sports game of the century. Like,
And
you
when
think
it comes out, it'll be the most selling sports game ever.
literally,
I can
like
go ahead and tell
Madden,
you.
Madden has been on the downfall for years, and like it's just so
Madden's been the only
cheap.
football game since
Exactly.
they stopped making NCAA.
There's nothing else to play.
We have craved something different for so long.
And we were able to play. I mean, in last year's Madden, I think it was Madden 22 or maybe it was Madden 23. We were able to play Road to Glory with like the 8 different NCAA teams. Like Bama was on there, Ohio State, Clemson. There's a couple teams on there, but it's like we want like an actual NCAA game.
Yeah,
like
we want to be able to make our own, custom uniforms and custom. We just want the game that we all know and love.
Yeah, get back into dynasty mode and like, oh, dude,
Whip Josh's ass and with Alabama when he's on Ohio State.
That's not gonna happen.
Or like maybe they have mascot mode where I can whoop the Buckeyes mascot. I forget his name.
Brutus is
I can whoop him with Big Al.
No, Brutus is whipping Big Al. He's got some big balls, big nuts, baby. No, that's what we got. That's what we got. No,
nah.
But I mean, I'm really excited for this game. I know we both are, but it's just like, oh, it's so frustrating that they're coming out. And the thing is, the vice president of the NCAA of the College Football Players Association that came out and said this. He's not even a player. Why does it matter? Shut up! Don't be trying to force your agenda.
I think it's just a way for him to get the bag instead.
Yeah, get some publicity out of.
And we were talking about this. Before, we were talking about this before the show. I don't think a lot of college football players go along with this. I think a lot of them take the deal because you get your name in the game, bro.
I boycott it. Why? Yeah. There's absolutely no reason. The only reason why you would do it is if you're being greedy and selfish.
And you know what EA is going to do? EA is going to give us the game with generic rosters anyway because we're going to buy.
And we can just switch their names. Switch their names. Use AI to switch their names for us. So easy money.
Exactly. So we just want this game, man.
Yeah, we really do want this game. Sooner it comes out, then we can figure out who the real better team is, which is obviously Ohio State over Alabama. But
next year, when first day it comes out, we're having a back of the end zone matchup live for the podcast.
We'll go live. We'll go live.
We'll go live. We'll live.
So yeah, it'll be a blast. But
I know what's been a blast this episode.
Yeah, it has been a blast. That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's exciting to see where we're moving as a podcast, and we actually have some exciting stuff for next week planned. I know it's not for sure yet, but hopefully, fingers crossed that everything goes through. And
we're planning on doing 2 episodes next week. We're planning on it.
Because of the fact that Bryant will be out of town, he's leaving. He doesn't
be on a cruise for 1 week. So I mean, we're gonna plan on doing 2 episodes next week. We're going to test it out, and if y'all like it, we might start going to 2 episodes from a week from here on out. You never know. So
we'll see. We'll see how it turns out and whatnot. But heck yeah, it's been a blast this episode. If you haven't already, check out 251 Pool Works. Check out Now Fitness. We will post their stuff and just literally please check them out because 251 Pool Works will get the work in for your pools. And you can get the work in your body too at Now Fitness. So,
and if you haven't, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification for more episodes and for previous episodes for updates. Go follow our social medias. Links will be in the description below. And just be along with the ride. Be along for the ride with us. Going fast.
Let's ride, baby. Let's ride.
It could be a family, like Vin Diesel says.
Oh yeah.
We'll see you next week. Let's go.